The late afternoon sun bled across the plains like molten gold as rancher Cole Rydell urged his horse toward the broken fence line he had been meaning to fix for 2 days. Wind whispered through the tall grass, carrying with it a strange, uneven sound, half a cry, half a gasp, as if someone were fighting for breath. Cole brought the horse to a halt, listening hard. Another sound followed, faint but unmistakable, a muffled plea. Every instinct in him tightened. He dismounted, hand resting lightly on the grip of the old colt at his hip, and moved forward with careful, deliberate steps. When he rounded the fallen cottonwood trunk near the creek bed, his breath froze. A young woman, dusty, bruised, trembling, lay half-tied across the log, her wrists bound with rough rope, her dress torn from desperate struggle. For a heartbeat, Cole felt the world stop. Her eyes, wide, terrified, snapped up to meet his, but what struck him wasn't fear of him, it was relief. "Please," she whispered, voice raw from crying, "don't let them come back." Cole immediately crouched beside her, hands gentle as he checked the knots. Whoever tied her up had done it in a hurry, leaving angry marks on her skin and dark bruises blooming along her legs. Rage burned under Cole's ribs, not the hot, reckless kind, but the cold kind that made a man move with purpose. "Miss," he said softly, "I'm gonna get you free. But I need to know, did someone hide something here? Did they say anything to you?" Because near the log he noticed something else, boot prints. Fresh. Leading toward the log, and leading away. And scratch marks on the bark, as if someone had been prying at it. She swallowed hard, shaking her head. They told me to hold still. To stay quiet. They were trying to open something under this log. Cole frowned and brushed at the moss, and when his fingers hit something metallic beneath the bark, the words he heard earlier echoed back in his mind, words he hadn't recognized until now. "Spread it open, do it with force." Someone had shouted it. Not at her, but at the log. They were trying to break it apart. Trying to reach something hidden deep beneath. He found the edge of a rusted metal plate. A buried box, old, heavy, locked. He felt a jolt of unease. Men who hid things this carefully didn't hide anything good. But before he could think further, the woman flinched violently at a distant sound, a horse neighing, faint but growing closer. Cole immediately pressed a hand to her shoulder. "Look at me. You're safe now. I promise you that." Her breath quivered, and tears welled up again. He cut the rope with a pocket knife, lifted her carefully, feeling how weak she was, how much she must have fought before collapsing. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, voice cracking. "Lila." Cole nodded. "All right, Lila. You're gonna ride with me. We'll get you to the ranch, patch you up. No one's gonna lay a finger on you again." But before he stood, his gaze slid back to the metal plate under the log. Something inside his gut twisted. Whatever those men were trying to get, whatever they tied Lila up for, it was connected to that hidden box. And he had a feeling they would come back for it. When he lifted Lila into the saddle and swung up behind her, her shoulders trembled as she leaned weakly against him, but she wasn't crying out of fear anymore. She was crying out of exhaustion, out of the sudden relief that someone had finally listened, finally helped. Cole wrapped one arm around her to keep her steady and turned the horse toward home. But as they rode, he kept glancing over his shoulder. The plains were quiet. Too quiet. And the sun was sinking fast. "Lila," he said gently, "I'm gonna ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Whatever those men were after, did you see it? Did you hear them say what it was?" She nodded weakly, eyes distant. They said it wasn't money. It wasn't gold." Her voice cracked. "They said what's under that log could ruin a whole town, maybe more." A shiver ran down Cole's spine. He tightened his hold on the reins. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was the beginning of something dangerous, something bigger than either of them understood. And with the sky darkening and danger closing in, he silently vowed one thing: whatever truth lay buried under that log, he would uncover it. And he would protect Lila with his life if he had to. The last of the daylight slipped away as they rode into the distance, two strangers bound by fate, danger, and a secret that had already drawn blood. And the men who wanted that secret were already on their way back. And as always, before the chapter closes, Cole's words echoed firm, steady, hopeful, To anyone watching, strength isn't about never being scared. It's about what you do after the fear hits. And if you want more stories of courage, survival, and redemption, hit that subscribe button. You're part of this journey too. The moon had climbed halfway across the sky by the time Cole Rydell reached his ranch, carrying the broken, bruised girl in his arms as though she weighed no more than a shadow, but even with the door bolted and the lantern lit low, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone out there was watching. Lila sat wrapped in a blanket, trembling softly as he cleaned the dirt from her wounds, and for the first time since finding her tied to that log, Cole saw something more than fear in her eyes, shame, guilt, something heavy she was dragging like an invisible chain. They weren't after me, she whispered suddenly, voice small but steady. I was helping them. Cole froze, cloth in hand, staring. Lila swallowed. I told them where the old hiding place might be. I didn't know what was inside. I thought it was just outlaw gold. Cole leaned back slowly, letting her words sink in. He didn't judge her. Desperation made people do strange things on the frontier, but he needed the truth. Why would they tie you up then? She looked down at her bruised wrists. Because when they broke open the first layer and saw the metal plate, they realized I didn't know anything. And when I heard one of them say what was really inside, I tried to run. Cole felt his chest tighten. Lila, what's in that box? She hesitated a long moment, as if saying the words aloud might set something terrible into motion. Evidence, she finally breathed. Names. Maps. Records. Cole frowned. Of what? Lila's voice was a whisper. A land grab. The biggest in the territory. A plan to take every small ranch and settle it under new ownership, fake deeds, forged claims, everything. They already burned 3 ranches to start clearing land. They were going to sell half the valley to a railroad company. Cole went still. The valley wasn't just land. It was home for dozens of families. Hard-working people who'd built everything from nothing. He felt anger rise up like a slow-boiling storm. So those men work for someone bigger. Lila nodded. Someone rich. Someone powerful. Cole stood, jaw clenched, pacing. He'd seen enough greed in his lifetime to know how far powerful men would go. But this wasn't just greed, this was the kind of conspiracy that could wipe whole families off the map. And if those men realized he had Lila, and that he'd seen the hidden box, they'd come for him next. A faint tremor shook the window. Hoofbeats. Distant, but closing. Lila stiffened. Cole blew out the lantern instantly, plunging the room into darkness. Down, he whispered, guiding her behind the table. He moved silently to the window, eyes adjusting to the silver wash of moonlight. 3 riders. Slow. Searching the fence line. Cole felt the cold weight of the colt on his hip. He wasn't afraid, but he wasn't reckless either. Not with Lila here. Not with a whole valley at stake. He waited until the riders drifted past into the dark before he finally stepped back. They're not gonna stop, Lila murmured. They want the box, and they want me gone. Cole kneeled in front of her, steady and unshakable. Listen to me. What happened to you? That wasn't your fault. But what you know now. It matters. You can set things right. Tears welled in her eyes, not of weakness, but of the crushing weight she'd been carrying. Cole placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Tomorrow, he said, we're going back to that log. We're recovering that box. And then we're taking it straight to Marshal Grayson. Lila's breath hitched. Cole, they'll kill us. Cole shook his head. Not if we move smart. And not if you trust me. She looked at him for a long moment, really looked, and something inside her steadied. She nodded. I trust you. Dawn crept slowly over the plains, turning the sky into a pale river of gold. Cole saddled his horse, helped Lila mount, and rode out toward the creek bed. But halfway there, something felt wrong. The air was too still. The birds too silent. And when they reached the fallen log, Cole's stomach sank. The log had been pried open. Completely. The box was gone. Lila gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Cole dismounted, scanning the tracks, fresh prints, 3 sets, riding hard and fast toward the North Ridge. Toward town. Toward the very people whose lives were about to be destroyed. "We're too late," Lila whispered. Cole turned to her, eyes sharp, voice calm but filled with iron. "No. We're not. They're taking that box to the one man who needs it the most, the man running this whole thing. Which means now we know exactly where they're headed." Lila straightened, fear replaced by a sudden fire in her expression. Cole swung into the saddle, hand outstretched. "Lila, we end this today. But I can't do it without you." She took his hand and climbed up behind him, arms wrapped around his waist as the horse surged forward. The wind whipped around them. Dust rose in their wake. And the valley, peaceful, quiet, unaware, lay ahead like a story waiting for its final chapter. Cole wasn't riding to save himself. He was riding to save everyone. And for the first time since her nightmare began, Lila wasn't running from danger, she was riding toward justice. Toward redemption. Toward the truth. And as the sun rose high and the ranch houses came into view, Cole whispered the final words that carried the weight of the entire journey. "If you're watching this, remember, strength ain't about the fights you win. It's about the fights you don't run from." So if you want more stories of courage, survival, and truth, hit that subscribe button. We ride together, to the end.